Before the reward, there must be labor. You plant before you harvest. You sow in tears before you reap in joy. As we celebrate Farmers Month, remember, farming is something that can be taught. Each plant tells its own story that has to be read repeatedly. Hello there. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. We have some educational features lined up just for you in this next half hour, so please stay with us.
Practicing good oral health is essential in maintaining fresh breath and a healthy smile. Always remember to brush twice daily for 2 minutes with fluoride toothpaste to strengthen tooth enamel and help fight gum disease. Always brush in a circular motion using a soft toothbrush. Floss once daily to remove food particles between the teeth and the gum line. Use a mouthwash to clean areas of the mouth a toothbrush or floss can't reach. Change your toothbrush every 3 to 4 months. Visit your dentist every 6 months for checkups and cleaning. And be sure to drink water to keep gum disease, plaque, and cavities at bay. Remember, good oral health is key to a healthy mouth.
Good day, I'm Lisa Rowe and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, April 10, 2024. As the country grapples with drought, the government has allocated $150 million in emergency support. This is to finance the trucking of water and limited procurement and distribution of water tanks. The response will benefit 50 constituencies with an initial allocation of $1.5 million each. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness in Parliament on Tuesday. He says this will be carried out over the next 4 weeks as rainfall is projected for April, May, and June.
I want to say that $150 million is not enough. It cannot solve the problem entirely. However, it is what we are able to do right now, and it is for a short period of time as we expect that we will get rainfall starting the end of April into May.
Mr. Holness says further allocations of $2.5 million each will be made from the fund to selected constituencies in Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. Anne. The municipal corporations in these parishes will also receive $5 million, with the exception of Hanover and St. Anne, set to get $7.5 million each.
So we will have reserve of $5 million. And that reserve we will use to treat with the 13 constituencies that are not given an allocation. But if an emergency were to arise, or the Member of Parliament is able to point out that there is a specific community that needs some service, then from that $5 million we would be able to respond over the next 4 weeks.
Prime Minister Holness reveals that the Hermitage Dam is now at 79.1% and the Mona Dam is at 77%. He says even though this is higher than the same period last year, the drought can easily reduce the capacity drastically. He also indicates that 47 water systems across the island are being affected by the drought. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has allocated $60 million to assist farmers affected by the dry season. The Ministry of Agriculture will use this for the trucking of water and the distribution of drip irrigation hoses, as well as other support to livestock farmers.
The government is responding on all fronts to the drought.
Mr. Holness says from January to March this year, 9 million gallons of water was trucked to approximately 900 farmers to alleviate the impact of the dry spell. In addition, 45 farmers have benefited from pond liners and others from the distribution of 58 water tanks and 400 drip hoses.
So that's significant assistance to our farmers in this time of great need in the drought. I have instructed the Minister of Agriculture to ramp up the program as we enter into the heights of our dry season.
In relation to schools and their resilience in times of drought, the Ministry of Education will work with the Rural Water Supply Limited to carry out a national assessment of schools. This Prime Minister Andrew Holness asserts is to identify and create areas for water harvesting. He urges school administrators to include climate change and water resilience in their operational plans.
So what we have asked the Rural Water Supply Company to do is to partner with the Ministry of Education to assist our schools in developing their water resilience plans, which would also include how we develop infrastructure or how we can repurpose existing infrastructure to become water capture, storage, and distribution within our schools.
Meanwhile, Mr. Holness has condemned the recent theft of a water tank from the Negril Primary School and is charging the authorities to investigate the matter.
In a period where the country is grappling with this national crisis, someone would seek to deprive a school of its water storage capacity. I urge the police to investigate it thoroughly and recover the tank and bring the perpetrators to justice.
Brace for the dry spell to spread to other parishes and worsen conditions for those already feeling the impact. That's the word from the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. Director Evan Thompson says the situation has been exacerbated due to the lack of rainfall in March. Mr. Thompson was updating the nation earlier today on the drought condition being experienced by the country.
Although there are some areas where we experience a little bit of rainfall, it's still well below what we would consider to be appreciable rainfall. So it does not put us in a favorable position because the conditions will continue to be dry for a period.
Mr. Thompson says that at the end of February, all parishes received below normal rainfall, with 6 classified as experiencing drought. On the bright side, the rainfall outlook for April, May and June is for a gradual increase for South Central parishes and near normal for North Central and Eastern parishes.
We see that there is some improvement that is likely to occur. It probably will not set in immediately because we are in the month of April, and as we see in this forecast here, or the outlook, it shows that the western part of the island will continue to experience quite a bit of dryness, even more so than the rest of the country. Others will gradually start to see the rainfall coming in, and we expect it to become above normal, but this might happen more toward the end of this period. This is in May, in June, when we expect the secondary rainfall peak to occur across the country.
Jamaica's dry season is traditionally from October to March and the rainy season from April to June. The handover ceremony and installation of the first exhibit at the long-awaited Port Royal Museum is expected to take place in May this year. The first fit-for-purpose 2-story complex in the island is being built at the cost of $788 million. Funding is provided by the Port Authority of Jamaica, PAJ. Director of the National Museum of Jamaica, Dr. Jonathan Greenland, tells JIS News that the new museum will replace the older and much smaller building at Fort Charles. The new location will be at the Old Coal Wharf. Dr. Greenland says the museum will provide fresh opportunities to attract more tourists and facilitate various levels of commerce, marketing, and tourism activities. It will feature restaurants, parking areas, multifunctional space, meeting rooms, and shops. It will also be fully accessible to the disabled community with wheelchair ramps and elevator. The museum will tell the narrative of Port Royal from the Spanish era to the devastating earthquake of 1692 and present. And finally, 18 warning signs have been installed along the Treasure Beach coastline in St. Elizabeth to alert beachgoers to potential danger. These include 11 caution signs and 7 no swimming signs. They were erected on Friday along Great Bay to Fort Charles, areas known to have strong currents that have claimed the lives of several persons. The measure is a joint collaboration by the Tourism Product Development Company, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, and the National Environment and Planning Agency, and residents living in the area. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green says the project is the first stage of a larger plan to keep visitors and residents safe.
We want to do some more, so we've been talking to the community about how could we have a set of lifeguards I think the best thing to do is to train some of our citizens in the area, have them certified as lifeguards, and come together to pay them to be there so that if anybody does get in difficulty, then we can provide some assistance.
Local fisherman Bernard Sutherland, who supported the initiative, says the signs will serve to spread awareness and prompt more people to ask questions about the beach.
One good advice I would like to give the public, everywhere you go and you see a fishing vessel like those small one up there in the harbor, anywhere you go and see those small vessels, that's the safest area to swim.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thanks for watching.
Several farmers, if not all, like to benefit from programs that are geared towards helping them. These can lead to easing the burden on their pockets and even creating new avenues for them on their journey. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining has created an incentive program to help farmers. Here are some ways they can benefit.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, in its continuing effort to support Jamaican farmers and foster economic growth, is offering an incentive program. Currently, the ministry has 3 incentives for farmers and farming enterprises.
The approved farming enterprise, which has 2 parts, productive input relief, which we call PIR, the income tax relief. We also have 20% duty concession on vehicles for use in agriculture. And we also offer additional stamp duty waivers on raw materials for manufacturers. For approved farming enterprise PIR, this allows waivers on applicable duties and taxes on certain inputs for the production of primary products used in the course of conducting farming operations in 5 categories. The first category is agricultural crops, livestock, poultry, or dairy. And when we say production of primary products, we mean the cultivation, growth, breeding or rearing, or otherwise activities in these categories. Apiculture is another category, forestry, horticulture, and aquaculture. To be a beneficiary of the 20% duty concession incentive as well as the approved farming enterprise incentive, farmers or farming enterprises must be registered with the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. The application process for PIR, the first step is for the farmer or farming enterprise to apply through their parish, RADA parish office. The application is then sent to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, and we make a recommendation on your behalf to the Jamaica Customs Agency. The Jamaica Customs Agency conducts a verification visit and approval is given by them. This benefit is received at the port. The other part of the approved farming enterprise, income tax relief, through the Income Tax Act, it allows farmers or farming enterprises that can write off their losses incurred on the farm against profits of another trade or business. The process for this is, once again, you apply through RADA. The ministry makes a recommendation to the Tax Administration of Jamaica and the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Once this is done, a certification will be given by the Minister of Finance. For the 20% duty concession on vehicles used in agriculture, we have a criteria, of course. The first requirement is to have a minimal annual production gross return of 250,000. And then we have minimum requirements in terms of crops and livestock. So for example, for food crops, 3 acres at least, vegetables, at least 2 acres, goats, 300, pigs, coffee, 3 acres, and all of this is available on RADA's website. For farms 1 to 10 acres, you're entitled to 1 vehicle. For farms 11 to 49 acres, 2 vehicles. And for farms over 50, you're entitled to 3 vehicles. And we must emphasize that the vehicles eligible are trucks, commonly known as pickups, not panel vans. The CC rating has a limit for gasoline 3,000 and for diesel 3,200. This process, once again, we show the importance of being registered with RADA. You apply through your RADA office. The ministry then makes a recommendation to the Jamaica Customs Agency. This is valid for 6 months. And then you will collect your copy from us and you take that to your dealer.
These incentives are intended to encourage farmers to save exponentially while opening new opportunities for expansion. To apply for these incentives, visit your local RADA office for more details. Now, begin to grow through incentives.
Fish contains lots of vitamins and minerals that are essential to healthy brain function. And most of us enjoy eating fish, whether it is fried or steamed, baked, or even roasted. The fisher folk make it possible for us, but have you ever wondered what they go through to bring home the catch? Come, let's find out.
My name is Cardel Anthony Style. I'm the operating manager here at the Boardwalk Farm here in Lightspen, Old Harbour. On a production day or a harvesting day is like, I wake up like probably 4:35 in the morning. Obviously, we'll get the call from overnight saying that we have a pan ready for selling. So they will respond to us and then we will know based on the amount of persons coming.
Before I come, I would normally use my phone as a mean of advertisement. So I would use my status to advertise. So I would know exactly say, I'm supposed to travel with a 200 or 250 today because it depends on the demand. So that's where I was started. Once I come here, I would contact Grace first. I tell her say I would need 200, and then I would come and then they would draw it from the pan and they would wait, and then I would put it in my cart and then I would leave and take it to the destination.
So the selling take place like probably roughly 8 o'clock. We finish our stuff like that. We prepare the feeding again for the entire day. Currently we're on the biomar. The biomar feed, it's a floating feed. But when we use the floating feed now, it's like we actually see the amount that the fish is consumed and where exactly the feeding reaches in the water and everything. With the biomar, once you throw it, if for instance the fishes are not feeding, you will find that all of it just float to the side. So you will have an idea the next day now as to say, all right, this pan is not feeding as well as they ought to, so probably you want to cut back a little bit. Or if you have a pan that is consuming that much, you find out that either you want to improve on the feeding capacity or, you know, the amount is okay.
Our farm is just tilapia. We just do tilapia farming. We started out with just 2 ponds. It was a test run, had a lot of challenges, a whole heap of setbacks, but so far it has improved significantly. So from then to now we are doing way better from then. It is a lucrative business. There are not enough persons. The demand is so much. So based on what the challenges they had, we figured out how we could circumvent those, work again around them, mitigate all of those. We saw where we could have done the same fish they were doing, but get better results. We have always considered farming to be a great option, something to explore. The opportunity came up to purchase this farm. We didn't hesitate. And then the fact that it had, all of these ponds were existing, and then we had the equipment to renovate them, so it kind of cut some of the costs. So we didn't hesitate, and that's really how this started. The National Fisheries Authority was of great assistance and guidance to us in that we knew nothing about fish farming. So you had their resource officers would come by. Like we have a 1 acre pond, they were really integral in telling us, okay, this is your stock density, which is how much to stock per acre, half acre, and then they would come and check, your water quality is not so good, so maybe you need to do this or that. So they have been of great help to us, and initially our fries were gotten from them. So, they still continue to guide and help us throughout the process. There's a misconception that they tasted like dirt. So persons have now come to realize that that's not necessarily so. They actually taste fabulous. So it's not a set number per day, but say an average size, a 1 acre pond, if you harvest, ideally for me, I would like to get a minimum 4,000 pounds. We have come close to that. So it's based on what you stock, the size of your pond, what you stock and what you recover. Predominantly they're from all over. I've had one person come from as far as Westmoreland.
I supply the Bagwak region, West Prospect, a small community named O'Malley, Lucky Valley. So I would do that like 3 times per week. They're very good size. Their average size is like 3/4 pound up to a pound. And they're very fleshy and meaty, so they really love them and they're always requesting it, so it's really high in demand. It's an opportunity to start something for yourself. So sometimes if you're not working, you can create something for yourself. Most people may not have a transport way they can transport it, but sometimes you can maybe start with a bicycle or whatever way to start something, to create something for yourself. Make a betterment of yourself and bring the goods to the people because it's high in demand and that's what they want.
I would encourage others, if they had the land space, the infrastructure to do so, with proper guidance though. So get in contact with the National Fisheries Authority, check with other farmers who have been in the business. A lot of them are willing to guide you along the way. So with that guidance, and if you do things correctly, then it is a success, can be very, very successful.
Fishing means a whole lot to me. Whatever you want, you just have to go for it because you cannot learn to drive in a parked vehicle.
Yes, walk right over there and drop it in the bin. Reuse that wastewater from your kitchen for the garden. Get your hands dirty and plant a tree. Farmers, hold off on the pesticides, especially near our rivers. Do your part to protect our watersheds so we can preserve the source of our drinking water. Every act to protect our watersheds counts. Start now.
When it comes to farming, one thing is for sure. Every day brings something new. We reap what we sow, and the profit is a bonus that makes it true. There are quite a few people doing farming, and the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, is helping young people on that journey. Come, let's take a look.
Farming is a way of life, especially here in Jamaica. Today, an increasing number of young people are getting involved.
Back then, persons used to look down on agriculture based on the stigma that agriculture is for a particular group of persons. But I am proud to say that that stigma has been reduced significantly. So no longer is agriculture a last option. It's a primary option where persons are now interested in pursuing even studies at the master's level in agriculture.
Getting started in agriculture can be tricky, so there are a number of things new farmers need to be aware of.
For young persons who would like to get involved in agriculture, the first thing I would say to them, they have to first assess their interest. Agriculture is a very wide industry with different sectors, and so they first need to look at, do I have an interest in crop production or animal production?
Crop production is the process of growing produce for domestic and commercial purposes, whereas animal production is the technology applied to keeping animals for profit. Feeding, rearing, and breeding. That's just the basics. So for the next few minutes, we'll learn more about getting started in crop production.
We at RADA, and the field staff particularly, when we are engaged about young persons get into farming. When they approach us, one of the main things we want to emphasize is about training. A lot of persons who want to venture into agriculture, and they see it as something that they can get into without getting that technical knowledge, because it's easy to go and get the land, prepare and sow the seeds and all of that. But there's a lot of other issues you have to consider. You have to consider the pest and the disease control. As you say, you have to look at the weather condition, you have to look at the type of crop. Different crop require different environmental conditions. Two major things we also emphasize to new entrant farmers is we look at the markets. Don't just jump into production without thinking about your market. I know it's sort of tempting for a lot of persons when prices are high and it look very nice, and you can get a lot of income, but that's not always the case. Because by the time you put in that crop, the price is usually, and the crop come in, the price is usually low. So we look at the market. And another thing, we look at the cost of production. A lot of new entrant farmers, they want to get into production without looking at what it costs to produce a crop. That is very important, because that is how you can determine if you are able to make a profit based on how you estimate your costs and your market price and all of that. So we emphasize the cost of production. So those are some of the things we emphasize to new entrant farmers.
So there are different options such as agro-processing that young persons can venture. So you don't have to be looking at agriculture as going in the sun, sweating. You can still do that practice. That's the traditional practice. But there are some contemporary practices that involves technology, such as hydroponics and aquaponics. And so young persons can look at that option as well. So don't picture a farmer as this person in dirty clothes, this person riding a donkey. Some of the farmers know they are driving the biggest vehicle you can think of, and they live in the best household that you can think of. Another thing that you need to do is to partner with RADA, in particularly the agri-linkages, to help you seek possible markets before you venture into the field of agriculture. And what you can also do is to do a SWOT analysis. When I say a SWOT analysis, once you identify your interest, you're going to be now looking at your strengths, assess the strengths, you're going to assess the weaknesses and how you can overcome them. You're going to look at the opportunities that exist, and you're now going to be looking at the threats. So one of your threats could be your, I wouldn't say competitor, because in agriculture, I don't want to give the impression that we are competing. We're all in this thing together. But there are some threats such as disaster. How can you bounce back, or how can you mitigate certain effects? So a SWOT analysis is very important when you're looking at agriculture as a young person.
With all that information in mind, get started with your research. Start farming, as you can help to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business by growing what we eat so we can eat what we grow.
I want to get rid of that stigma that is attached to agriculture. And I want persons to understand that if we don't have farmers, we won't have any people. So where there's no food, the people will perish. So look at agriculture as a business and not as a traditional, disregarded occupation. It's a very lucrative, very vibrant occupation that you should all think of.
This is where we leave you on today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Be sure to join us tomorrow on this station for all the information you need to know. Until then, visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for this and more offerings. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Theodore Henry, reminding you that agriculture is the most healthful and most useful employment of man.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.